you want to achieve smooth paint application and blending like this, you need to do one thing: thin your paints. How many times you've been told this? Well, what if I told you there's a big misconception about this that's not allowing you to achieve the result you strive for? So in this video, I'm gonna disprove the biggest miniature painting lie you've been told for years, show you exactly how to thin your paints to get smooth finishes and blend without using 300,000 coats. So what's the problem we're trying to fix? And why should we thin our paint? The fears related to this are to clog up the details, having paint uncontrollably running around, leaving visible texture, and create chalkiness when you try to blend. The solution to all this is, well, just thinning your paint like everybody tells you to. Or is it? It is, but not the way you think. The thing is, rarely people deep dive into how to do it, how much water you should add, and also how adding water actually affects your paint. And well, this is what I'm here for, babies. Don't worry, mama got you. Well, the amount of water you need to add to the paint, it depends on what you want to use that paint for. Are you painting a base coat? Are you trying to blend 2 layers? Or are you trying to glaze to insanity? Hopefully not for you. Well, first, we need to understand, how does the water affect your paint? Last week, I came across a very interesting video on the painting channel called Brushstroke Painting Guides. This video is a very good video. Still, he missed a big point. He explains really well how the water added to the paint helps the paint distribute evenly to the model. And this is because when the water dries and evaporates, the paint shrinks and perfectly follows the contour of the model.
You also need to consider that every paint, even within the same brand or the same range, can be very different. In my course, the foundation system, I compare different paint and different brands, really deep diving into paint thinning and how exactly to move this paint around the model. In a way that's kind of impossible to do here on YouTube. So check it out in the first link in the description and help me keep a roof on my little girly cringy head. Okay, moving on.
He also talks about another very interesting concept. He says that adding water to the paint adds movement to the paint. Thick paint is slow. It creates friction when you try to move it with your brush. And it will create the same friction when you try to apply it to a model as well. Thin paint, on the other hand, is fast. It runs, it's kind of hard to control, right? This consistency could be similar to a wash. Like he says, the perfect base coat is a middle ground between slow and fast paint. That's the paint that's gonna allow you to achieve that smooth and even and spotless layer. But it really works like that put into practice?
Well, from what I see here, he might actually be stumbling in the same miniature painting trope, that misconception I personally just don't love. But before you call me a
see you next time, C-U-N-T,
let's actually test it. Let's go back to his video and figure out exactly which consistency he is using. Then I'll try to replicate it and see how much it actually covers. My intention is not being disrespectful. Like I said, I love the video. I just want to test this so you can decide for yourself. On this glove, the consistency looks like this, so not bad, not bad. On the model though, it looks like this. It looks very, very thin to me. Even though it's a dark color, you can see a lot of the black primer showing through. But let's mix it and test it on the model. Can you see how thin this is? It's pretty similar to his, I'd say. He's using a smaller detailed brush, which I'm not, but I'm confident we have pretty much the same consistency. The way I figured this out was by looking at how the paint moves, exactly how he said. The times he had slightly more color on the brush, he kind of spreads it out, again achieving that primer showing through, and he's also touching the wet paint a lot, which I don't love. I'm going square by square because I didn't want to touch wet paint, because for me it's just big no-no, but here I kind of had to avoid paint deposit at the end of the brush strokes. This is how mine dried, and this is how the one I painted with my base coat consistency dried. You can see on the left side of my base coated one, there's still some of that other consistency, and just look at the difference. Comparing the application side by side, can you see how my base coat consistency looks totally different from his? It's slower, exactly like he said, but a slow good, because it covers 90% of the surface. And yes, you can see a little bit of primer showing through, just a bit, but to me there's a big difference. But draw your own conclusion.
Problem is, in my opinion, it still goes with the too thin coats things, which are never too thin coats. Sometimes it really feels like we are stuck in the 2010s. I mean, while it's kind of true that some paints used to be goopy, thick, and straight out of pot, and don't get me wrong, it's still true for some paints, you also must realize that many paints had a huge jump in quality in the last 3 to 5 years in terms of coverage and pigment quantity and quality. And yes, even Citadel.
Even with this very goopy paint from Army Painter, I had a really hard time achieving a bad result. I just had to slap it totally on thin on the model multiple times, and still it didn't look quite that bad.
Most of them are pretty much bottle ready. So when you're adding water, you're probably thinning the paint way too much. This misconception leads the thin coats being more like 4, 5, 100, 1,000, I don't know, a lot. More than you need. What if I told you that with the consistency most people are suggesting you to use for base coating, you could actually blend really fast? What? How? To understand that, you need to listen to this. Acrylic paint is transparent, but in miniature painting, our paints can have full coverage as well. This allows us to have a ton of different uses for the same color. In order to make it accessible and clear to understand, I created this chart that I call the opacity continuum. On the far left, we have full opacity, and on the far right, we have full transparency. And in the middle, there are the various percentages of consistency.
The far left you can use for base coating and layering with fully opaque, well, layers. And from the middle to the far left, you have different types of glazing consistency, which can be used for many different things. From blending, stippling, building up smooth transition to, of course, cleaning up your blends to insanity. Having said that,
let's answer the question that torments every beginner and intermediate painter. How should I thin my paint? I'm gonna show you exactly how to do that in order to achieve smooth applications and fast blendings on your miniatures.
Jumping on the palette, here I have this gray-blue, a very light color, that I am gonna apply on the black primer. Yeah, I'm crazy like that. As we mix and add water to the paint, what you really need to do is developing that feeling of fluidity that happens under your brush when you have the perfect base coat consistency, which no one seems to talk about. It's actually the same principle that Brushstroke Painting Guide's channel talked about, right in the middle of fast and slow paint. As I reach that feeling I talked about, after cleaning my brush, after mixing and drying it a bit, I am ready to pick up the paint and apply it to the model. You can see here it goes real good and smooth. This paint is not thin. It's kind of thick actually, but thick good. Let's petition to change this trope to 2 thick coats instead of 2 thin coats. Like I said, most paints and most brands are near to bottle ready, but still some might need extra help from water. And here your brush hardly has to do any of the work. This can be very relaxing because the paint will flow off your brush pretty easily without escaping your brush, so you'll still be in control, but with less effort. Another thing that's rarely mentioned is how many times you should wash the brush and pick paint back up. Every 40 to 60 seconds is a good starting point, in my opinion. Probably it's more than you're doing, or maybe not. Only I have my experience with my students. I really want to try to push you to be a little bit more daring on this, to stop being afraid of clogging up details or leaving visible brushstrokes. All you need at the beginning is full coverage and layering with other fully covering layer. You won't have any big buildup if you paint using just 2 layers, base coat and highlight. But if you really want to blend 2 layers, I gotcha. Like I mentioned previously, with the 2 thin coats consistency, you can do so many things. But today I'm going to show you how to blend the transition between 2 colors, between 2 layers, in only 1 brushstroke, aka using a strong glaze consistency. To achieve this consistency, you need to add water to the paint till you feel that base coat consistency flowing under your brush, and then you just push it a little bit further till you slightly, I said slightly, see the paper underneath, just like this. But the easiest way to test if you have the right consistency is directly on the model. In this case, I need to smooth the transition between black and dark gray from McKay. I mix dark gray in a strong glaze consistency, and then I directly apply it on the edge where the 2 layers meet, just like I was painting a line. If it covers the borders, you have the right consistency. You need to have enough paint on your brush to still have a bit of opacity, but also painting on the edge with the line pattern, you will be able to automatically feather out some of that paint. And I repeat this all over the model, always taking a highlight color, then it down to a strong glaze consistency, and then apply it on the edge. It's pretty fast and pretty simple. But what if what you really strive for is that contrast and smoothness that all the pro painters you look up to always achieve? Well, to do that, you absolutely need to check out this other painting approach that combines 2 techniques together for maximum smoothness.
So watch this video here to learn everything you need to know, and I'll see you there. You'll see last week, I shot kind of in the same day, but